You're listening to the Autism Weekly podcast. Each week, we share community voices and bring light to stories that increase awareness, acceptance, equity, access, and inclusion. If you haven't already, subscribe to join the Autism Weekly family. I'm your host, Jeff Skibitsky. This week, we're joined by Dr. Scott Price, a renowned professor of music and pioneer in inclusive piano education. Dr. Price has dedicated his career to teaching students with autism and empowering families through the power of music. Today, we'll discuss how music can unlock potential, foster growth, and bring joy to children with special needs. Welcome to the podcast, Dr. Scott Price.
Oh, thank you, Jeff. And please just call me Scott. We're all friends here.
Absolutely. That makes it so much easier. So before we jump into really understanding the program that you've put together and what you've been able to develop out in Columbia, South Carolina, I'd like to really get a picture of how you decided to take your passion for music and the passion for helping to serve children, and especially those that need more support to be empowered within the community. How did those two things come together?
Oh my gosh. Well, I've always just been one to look for every single opportunity that I could get to learn something. And I had some wonderful teachers along the way who gave me that advice and really fostered that importance, that thought that you have to take every opportunity that you can get. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I didn't know much about autism other than I'd heard the word back in the late 1990s. And then I got a phone call from a local piano dealer who was a great friend. And he said, I've got a family here. They are wondering if their daughter could have lessons. She's blind, but she's taught herself to play the piano. Can I give them your phone number? And I said, sure. So they called and we made an appointment. And when they came to the appointment, I learned that their daughter had been born 4 months premature, that she was blind from birth, profound developmental delays, also profoundly autistic, almost nonverbal. But on the other end of that spectrum, her music aptitude put her in sort of the savant level of music making. And so after I picked my jaw up off the floor at what she could do, I just said, sure, let's give it a try. And I always tell the parents, let's give it a try. If at some point you feel like it's not working, tell me. I'll find a better situation for you. Or if I feel like I'm not the right person, I'll help you find a better situation and we'll still be friends.
Yeah.
So that first student was wonderful. The family was wonderful. And then parents network. And before you know it, 1 turns into 2, turns into 5, turns into 10, turns into 25 years.
Yeah, no, it's always interesting is that one connection and it's always an interpersonal connection of like, I really connected with this family, this child, and it grows into that overall passion. Just a quick little follow-up is,
sure.
As I've worked with autistic individuals and as I've been a part of their lives during my career, I feel like I've learned and developed so many skills within myself, whether that is being able to identify different perspectives, whether that's being able to understand the creativity of being able to adapt what I find is I need to do this versus how do I make it successful for the other person versus just for me? And the patience piece to it is, what have you learned through the process? I mean, you've been doing it for 25 years, but I mean, what have you learned and developed within yourself by opening up your arms to autistic individuals?
Oh, well, I mean, it's never what I know. It's everything that my students and their families have taught me. So I can't take credit for any of it because they are truly been the people who've gifted it to me. Sort of the tenets of our program are, number one is that, music aptitude doesn't discriminate, and neither should teachers or the public. You got to find a way to help children develop their music aptitude because of all the benefits that go along with that. I also realized early on that in every situation, I am the student is the teacher. And I really believe deep in my heart that when I have one of these children sitting on the piano bench, that I really am in a sacred presence. and I know that I am going to be gifted with a master class in piano teaching and just in life skills. So it's my job to just sit back, learn, listen, and respond because they see things that I don't see. They
Hmm.
see the world in ways that I don't see it. And it's my job to kind of look through that window and see if they'll let me in and share
Yeah.
their experiences with me.
No, I mean, it's so humbling at times. It's just being able to kind of sit back and realize that your view of the world is a singular view, and
Hmm.
you just taking in all of that. But you talked about how much music has, how much it opens up for other people, how much it's a part of one's life. But I'd love to hear, the idea of music for a neurotypical person, just because it's under-resourced right now in a lot of ways in children's education and everything like that. But I'd love to hear the benefits of that, but then also the benefits specific to autistic individuals and bringing music into their lives, or do they align?
Oh gosh, that's a great question. Um, I think we talked a little bit earlier about how certainly I want all of my piano students to learn how to read music, to learn how to count music, to learn how to play at whatever level of skill they can play, how to be expressive in their music making, how to be creative in their music making, and to reach some level of self-sufficiency. But, I learned early on that that's just the way that we reach the person. It's really not about the music. It's about the person and having them have someone in their lives who can share that particular expression with them. And I've got a wonderful colleague named Melissa Martiros who runs the Opportunity Music Connections program. And she always says all behavior is communication. And so every little move that my student makes, they're telling me something, and I need
Hmm.
to learn how to communicate in ways other than just verbiage. And then we can begin to share those things. Now, as far as the piano playing end of it, certainly in the lesson we're working on social behaviors and practicing those and learning those because I want my student to be able to learn how to approach the learning process and to have the behaviors necessary to navigate the learning process so that all the anxieties and the frustration and the behavioral meltdowns or shutdowns don't surface then. And I certainly want to help them practice whatever level of social communication they need to practice as
Hmm.
well. And that means that I'm going to have to explain the meanings of many of the words that I use because they may not have a wide vocabulary. And we use a weird vocabulary in music making. So
Oh,
I often
sure.
have to teach them what the meanings of those words are in context because we talk about a piano key. Well, key for them might mean their house key or their car key, and they just don't
Hmm.
comprehend well, why am I calling this a key? And so I have to do all of that. So we practice all of those things. So it's just a way for them to also hone or maybe work on fine and gross motor skills as well, and how
Yeah.
to take the behaviors that they've learned and create variations on them and apply them to other musical social situations as well.
Yeah, I mean, it just sounds like lesson after lesson. I mean, it's when you're talking about, like you said, the social behaviors, the ability to express, the creativity, there's so many things that come out of that experience of learning to play music, but then learning to express oneself through music, which, I mean, it seems like it's just an ever evolving process that we could all take advantage of.
Oh, sure, and that's
Um,
life. That's life.
it-
And I sometimes I get a little overwhelmed with the responsibility because the parents they are releasing their custodial care to me
mhm.
for 30 minutes or 45 minutes or an hour, and I need to be the best that I can be to sort of take on that role that they are trusting me with, and that's just kind of frightening sometimes.
Yeah, it's frightening, but I would imagine seeing the joy of somebody when they figure out how to be able to get that sound that they want out there, that they're trying to be able to express, and seeing kind of, the ability of achievement through that. I would imagine that as much as it's a stressful situation as far as how do I get there? How do I go through that process? Seeing that end result of somebody feeling success or empowered, I think has got to be something that easily drives that mission. That, well, speaking of mission, is that you built something. I mean, you built the Carolina Life Song Initiative. So tell me a little bit of, how that came to be, and also is, how families integrate or find a path forward to be able to utilize the services that are out there.
Oh, yeah, sure. So the Carolina Life Song Initiative is a part of our piano pedagogy program here. And all of our student teachers have some level of exposure to training, whether that is just a couple of weeks in a pedagogy class or if they take an intensive seminar dedicated entirely to teaching this population of students and all the techniques involved. Um, but I have sort of a good old Southern saying, which is the kind of the mission behind the program, which is y'all come. We don't care if the rest of the world thinks something's wrong with you. We don't, and we're going to find a way to help you achieve your potential in music making and in playing the piano. So sort of there was always a plan from the beginning, and that was to bring together a population of students, to learn from them and develop the pedagogy, and then to do teacher training and share that with other people, and then to develop the research end of this and get it out into the wider public. And of course, through publications and through student dissertations and things like that. And so we're pretty well into step number 4 now. And what I never expected would happen is that I have a team of doctoral students now who have shared with me their own diagnoses, and they're the ones doing the research now from the inside with their own perspective. And so that's just great.
No, I love that. And quite frankly, is that those voices weren't always heard. Is
Yeah,
that
exactly.
is
Yeah.
getting the autistic voice into autistic decision making and an autistic perspective is probably the most important thing in the world. You always want to be represented if people are making decisions about your life, and having that opportunity where you have people who identify autistic that are giving feedback, contributing to the research, being leaders in the field. That's amazing. And that's what you're
Yeah,
hoping to be able to see.
exactly. And I had a student who is deaf who wrote her dissertation on musicians and hearing loss. And it's wonderful to have her sit there on the piano bench and say, no, you need to say this way because this is what I experience. Or a student with dyslexia saying, look, the explanation you're giving me just doesn't work because my brain doesn't work that way. So you need to change it. And this is how you need to change it.
Then the ability to continue to learn as a teacher, as a professor
Absolutely.
yourself, it's like, gosh, I'm learning every single day how to make my life better, but also those around me. So you talked about the teaching program and the training that goes into that. From that training is that you have undoubtedly built some strategies to be able to create this inclusive environment, to be able to allow for inclusive teaching of piano skills. Do you mind sharing kind of, maybe some of the framework or some of these strategies or how they've worked for you with some of the folks who have come in to utilize the service?
Oh, sure. First of all, I have to reiterate that the students are the teachers and that it's just a constant learning process. And as painful as it can be, sometimes they show me, or I shouldn't say sometimes, I should say every day, every lesson, they show me what is sort of meaningless, counterproductive, or irrelevant in my traditional teaching and how I need to reframe that to meet their needs. And I also have to be honest and say that the parents are my first and best resource. And I'm constantly asking questions or taking very seriously everything that they say to me, whether it's in the lesson or whether it's a text message or an email in between, because they just are my best resource.
On that parent aspect to it is that being able to utilize them in that way, I would imagine it helps for your individual sessions, but it must help also for the continuity of them being able to help support afterwards because you're working as a team. So whatever you've learned on the teaching of the techniques, they can start to apply a lot of that into the home environment to keep that learning going and to be able to benefit from all the work that's being done.
Oh,
Is that kind of the way you
absolutely.
see that partnership?
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes I'll see phones or iPads come up and we do videos that they can take home and show to
Hmm.
the children. We just have an agreement that doesn't go on Instagram or TikTok or Facebook or anything like that. And then I shouldn't leave out their other therapists and teachers or music therapists that they're working with. Although I, as a piano teacher, have different goals than a music therapist has, they often can dovetail. And so if my student is working with a music therapist, sometimes we will be in contact and doing things the same way. So there's a sense of sameness and normalcy, and that we can be helping each other with certain skills.
Absolutely. And so when you've created the framework, you've done a lot of the research. You indicated that you're trying to bring this to the community, which it may even be commercialization later. I mean, it's one of these things that the more that you can get it out there, the more that you can help support other communities and build around it, is that it becomes mainstream, it becomes accessible. So with the program itself, as you're trying to be able to give more resources out there, is there a structure? Is there a curriculum to how the teaching is being done, or is it really individualized? How does that
Well,
component work?
I think it's both. Certainly, we teach all the behaviors to be able to approach the lesson and to navigate the lesson. And then
Hmm.
we follow all the things that probably a lot of people who are working in autism studies do in their programs, which is we give the student the routine for the lesson so they know exactly what's going to happen. And then within each of those routines, there's a subroutine, and everything's broken down into the step-by-step instruction. And within that, I have to remember to not only teach the meanings of the words, but the meanings of the words in context. And then I've got to manage behaviors as well. And watch, my students' facial expressions, their breathing, the speed of their movements, to see what their emotional state is at that moment or their intellectual state, so that I can back off or I can ask them if they need a break, so that they are giving consent and they are a full partner in the learning
Hmm.
process.
No.
And then we choose music that they like. Sometimes I choose music that they don't necessarily like, but we explain why they have to learn it. And then my students are all required to learn to improvise. And there's the ones who are interested and can approach composing, they learn how to compose. And then we have a recital at the end of every semester where all the students will play whatever repertoire they've been working on. Most of them will improvise on the spot for the audience or play a composition. Um, and so they learn that whole social aspect of how to handle themselves in a performance space.
Yeah, and,
And
and quite frankly, I could use that same training, I think, at times. It's like, none of us get over that. That's such a wonderful skill to have.
yeah, and I think one of the first few recitals that we had, I was just so wrapped up in helping the students achieve their potential that I looked out at the audience and I saw the faces of the parents, and I realized that this is maybe the first time they've seen their child do something that every other child can do, and maybe doing it better than other
Yeah.
children, and
Yeah.
what a value that had for them.
Just looking in the eyes of families when they see their child succeed is something that's priceless. But doing it with somebody who probably has not been able to, within the society that we have, succeed as much as they probably could have when they're empowered appropriately, is for that family to be able to be a part of that, see their child as the spotlight. I could imagine is that you as the teacher, is that you're sitting there and almost with tears in your face, just seeing kind of that reaction of what's occurring there.
Well, I think
Um,
you said it. I think that it's they need to be part of and not less than.
hmm Absolutely, and highlighting that. I'm glad that you have that, and doing those concerts where everybody gets to shine individually, and they're shining at whatever level they're able to do, and whatever improvements they were able to make during that time period. It gives them a chance to be able to be proud and to celebrate themselves, and
We
we
do a
all do.
lot of celebration. Uh, you know, Music study is just fraught with unknowns. It's scary because you never know what's going to happen, and in live music, anything can happen. And so even if my student tries, we celebrate that, even if it was unsuccessful, because they went into that unknown and they tried.
Yep.
And so we celebrate that. We celebrate everything that they do, just so they feel human.
Well, I mean, obviously, the experience that you've had has been absolutely wonderful, and that despite sometimes you might have had challenges, is that seeing the end result, seeing that joy or that passion coming from your student has been something that's driven you. What are some of the barriers that might keep other piano teachers or other musicians from diving in to support those that maybe they don't understand, like somebody who's autistic?
Well, I think the first thing is just fear, not knowing what to do, not feeling like they have training, feeling like they're going to fail the student. And I'm very fortunate to be in a piano teaching profession where most teachers are just so hungry to keep learning and they want to give that experience to students. And so they will seek out any teacher training that they can get. I do tons of workshops across the country. So that's one of the biggest barriers. I think they're just going to be afraid that they'll fail the student or that they will harm the student in some way. And I always just
Hmm.
tell them, no, people are people. Um, if it doesn't work out, you'll probably be ignored or you'll be told that it's not working. And we just need to lose the ego and get better.
And I mean, you've learned this over experience, but also research. And some of those research studies, and I'll be transparent, I don't know a lot of them, and I'm in the field. Is that um, what are some of the big learnings that have occurred through the process, and what are some of the things that you're looking at now within research when it comes to music, when it comes to piano, when it comes to developmental delays that may be something that we should be following?
Oh, one of the things that I'm really interested in and working on now is the development of fine and gross motor skills within the context of piano study and the vocabulary and the way those things need to be explained and developed because I don't think a lot of people realize that playing the piano is a whole body experience. You're not sitting there. You're balancing on the edge of the bench. Your feet are working all of the pedals. Your core is supporting your arms. The fingers and the arms are constantly moving. Your eyes are constantly tracking. And then there's the mental aspect of it and the emotional and spiritual aspect of it as well. So we're helping our students learn how to pull that together. And so
Hmm.
that's one of the things that I'm interested in right now. Of course, all of my teacher workshops have to do with behaviors, routine, communication, and just giving them the basic skills that they need to make this a successful experience. But then some of my students, my graduate students, we just had the one who wrote the dissertation on dyslexia, one who wrote her dissertation on musicians with hearing loss.
Hmm.
I have another student with ADHD, and she's interviewing graduate pianists with ADHD and what their learning and practice needs are to better educate university faculty on how to make this experience possible for adults with ADHD. And then other students who have done work into autism and music reading, autism and music counting. And I have one who's currently interviewing parents in my program to see what their expectations are regarding music study for their children so that we can be better informed as teachers.
Absolutely. And I mean, so you've been able to kind of take all this information. You have obviously a wonderful grad program under your belt that's been able to kind of bring about so many wonderful discussions, research topics, and also educative material. For those that are out there listening that are potentially music teachers or who are doing some form of music teaching, even if it's not their full-time profession, but also have a passion of giving back to the community and those maybe that are underserved, do you have any success stories of, those that have attended your workshop that have taken these skills and come back to you to say, hey, you know what? I learned so much through this process, and I have this story that of being able to work with somebody, connect with somebody that has been so empowering for me that it's changed my view on what I'm capable of as a teacher on being able to really step out of my comfort zone.
Oh, sure. I think the thing that I love to hear is when a teacher comes up to me and they say, yeah, I said yes to this kid. And I realized that it's a wonderful experience for him. I realized how to help him read, and now he's playing with his peers in
Mhm.
recitals, or just teachers not being afraid. Ultimately, I think always we're going to need advocacy for inclusion, but I would love to get to the point where there is no difference between students, and every teacher is equipped to just reframe and adjust their pedagogy for every student who comes along.
Mhm.
Other successes, one thing I love is that all of my faculty recitals here at the university I have made for many years now sensory friendly and family friendly. And I sort of do marathon evenings where I just sit down and play like all of the Chopin nocturnes or
Mhm.
half of the Mozart sonatas. And we tell the public, everybody's welcome. Bring your babies, bring your kids with special needs. Don't worry about showing up late. Just come when you can, leave if you have to. And we have audience members who now know that they can participate in a live concert without having to worry about the needs of their children or their children behaving differently. It's all good with me. I'd rather they were here
Yeah.
and they don't need to worry about me as a performer. I can take care of that.
Absolutely. And this whole time that we've been discussing this is that we've been talking about a broad spectrum of individuals. Is that with autism
Sure.
used as a
Yeah.
diagnosis, it fits a lot of characteristics. It fits a lot of different types of demonstration of some of these core characteristics. So, what would you be telling to a family who might have a child that maybe requires more support, that maybe doesn't have a lot of the natural sort of skill sets that would enhance somebody's ability to inherently play music right on day one, um, and where it's more about the experience? What would you be telling them, and what would you be encouraging them about finding that musical instrument and getting their child engaged?
Well, I think first of all is don't be afraid to ask. I think so many parents have heard the word no so many times. They're afraid to ask. That's why I told you at the beginning of our session here, just call me Scott, leave the doctor title off because it puts a barrier in front of that. Just ask, and we'll give it a try, and with no expectations, and then we'll see where we go from there. I think that's the biggest thing is just to realize that people are people, and we all need to connect and not close doors in people's faces.
Yeah. And some of these doors, unfortunately, based off of resources, funding, access in the community, have been shut. Maybe not permanently, maybe not closed to a complete, but they're only cracked open at times, which means that there's got to be more advocacy out there and understanding of the benefits of music and how that plays a role in any child's development, but especially those that maybe benefit even more so from some of the components that music brings out as far as developmental skills, behavioral skills, life skills, being able to think abstract or conceptually, like all of these components that we take as social communicative behaviors that are embedded in the music strategies. Um, where should parents be kind of focusing some of that energy to make sure that those resources are available in their community? Should they be reaching out to school boards? Should they be talking to different community groups, maybe to enhance the training so that it becomes more inclusive? What's the parent role? Because it is such a powerful
Oh gosh,
advocacy.
I think the parent will, I depend on the parents so much for their teaching and their education that they can give me in the piano lessons to help support their child. But every community will have its piano teachers group, whether that's through the Music Teachers National Association or through the National Federation of Music Clubs, other local groups. The Royal Conservatory of Music in Canada administers their examination system here in the United States, and they specifically have a process to enroll students with this whatever learning needs they may have into this process. So we just need for parents to ask. And often teachers are overwhelmed. And so I also counsel parents to say, ask, but then also say, I can help you with. I can
Hmm.
give you suggestions on how to do this, or I'd be glad to show up that day and
Yeah.
help you navigate all of this. That's what the teachers need, because piano teachers are a wonderful group of people. They will always say yes,
Hmm.
but often they're just overwhelmed with all the things they have to do in the community. Because let's face it, a lot of arts programs in the schools, when they get cut, that burden falls on the independent music teacher within the community, and there aren't enough of us.
Yep.
And
Exactly.
so to shoulder that burden. So a lot of times they need a little bit of help. And maybe they've never had a student with autism in their achievement day
Hmm.
activities or in their competitions. Maybe they just need someone to say, hey, can you just create a different category? We're not looking for an award or a winner. We just want them to be able to participate. So can
Absolutely.
you relax some of these eligibility requirements and just make this extra category for us? It's real easy to do. Let me show you how.
Yeah. I mean,
And they
giving
will
a
be
roadmap.
more than willing to do that.
Absolutely. Is the flip side of that true as well? I mean, so you're talking a lot about going and asking for the music teacher to be able to open up, but how about the side of the music teacher that's saying, a lot of families have other therapies that they're involved in that may support the music teacher as far as, hey, you know what, the behavioral technique or the sensory components of how to be able to regulate. Is it something that you encourage the music teacher to say, hey, if you are engaged in other therapies, let's collaborate. Let's make sure that those techniques are available so that we can use them as well to be able to help empower your child.
Oh, sure. I think so, as much as possible. And then on the other side of that coin, um, I always encourage teachers to say, whatever event that you're having, advertise it in the community as family friendly or as
Hmm.
inclusive, and just let people know we want you here. Bring your kids down. They don't have to participate. Let them come down and watch the recital. Then maybe they can start a lesson. Then maybe they can participate in the recital. Sometimes it takes a few cycles just to get a student ready to perform.
Yeah, and even when all that's available, it's trying to figure out that first motivating step. And I
Mhm.
guess that leads to, I'd love to give you the platform at the end here to just give, that last message. You're talking to families right now, and I'd love to hear what you'd be telling them about the role of music in fostering the growth and the development for their child with autism, to be able to help them realize that, putting in my time and energy as a parent, doing the transport, making sure that I'm carving out parts of my day for this, that value is truly understood so that they can make that decision. So what would you be telling that family who's pondering, is this something I should include into my child's weekly plan?
Well, I think I'm in a bit of an unusual situation in that parents come to me already knowing what my program is. So when I answer the phone, I'm already getting all the information that I need to
Uh,
know, and they are actively seeking this out. But for other parents, I would just say, look, the music study, it's a time for your child to connect in a way that they may not be able to connect in their other activities. And so they can have a friend who can share the beauty of sound with them and can communicate with them through patterns and through sound patterns. And we can also partner in helping your child learn social behaviors in different situations, working on their social communication, um, working on transferring behaviors. We can also work on fine and gross motor skills. And perhaps your child is nonverbal, but that doesn't mean they can't share their music with everyone they come into contact with. And that's how they can develop a sense of validation.
hmm.
Now, on the more scientific side of that, we know through recent research in music skill acquisition in early childhood all the benefits that that has on the development of synapses in the brain and the child's natural puzzle solving ability that they're born with. and that every child is born with music aptitude. They are born with the ability to create music. And so it's really, I believe personally, the society and the public's responsibility to develop that for every child because of all
I
the
mean,
benefits that are there.
that's such a positive way to be able to kind of look at the framework. And I think that's one that we should all share is that, if we all have this inherent ability and yet we're not cultivating it, what are we missing out on? What are the other parts of my development, my cognition, my life, my experience by not having a music as a part of that? Am I missing out on other skill
Oh,
sets?
certainly. And me as a teacher, my my privilege of being welcomed into these children's worlds over the last couple of decades has made me a much better musician, a much better teacher, a much better pianist. And I've had to examine a lot of things about my own personality and my own character to make some positive changes there.
Hmm.
And I guess I just keep coming back again to that it's not about the music, it's about the child. And I had a few years ago a student who was on the autism spectrum. He had some fine and gross motor skill delays and some intellectual delays, and he had very pronounced ADHD. And they came to a lesson one day, and the mother said, I don't know how it's going to go today. He had a really bad day in school. And so I just, said, Jonathan, did you have a bad day in school today? And he said, yes. And I said, do you want to talk about it? And he said, no. And then he said, but I'll never give up because tomorrow is another day. And after I picked my heart up off the floor, I just said, you're right. And right now, you and I are friends and we can have a good time making music. What would you like to do in the lesson today?
Yeah, well, that lesson that he taught you is one that we probably all need to learn and take to heart is that
Mhm.
a failure, a perceived failure today could be a win for tomorrow. And it could be something that we learn from and grow from.
Oh, sure.
And it's such a great perspective. I'd be remiss not to ask, what are some of the resources that either the teacher of music or the parent could be accessing at your resources? I mean, you obviously do workshops. Some of the information that's out there, where could they be turning to learn more so they can start this journey?
Oh, sure. Two of our professional organizations have some resources available. The Music Teachers National Association, they have an inclusive pedagogy section on their website where you can get access to articles and things. Many of the music groups that I have done workshops for, they've recorded those and posted those on YouTube. So you can just search my name and autism or piano study. The Francis Clark Center for Keyboard Pedagogy also has some resources that I've put together and others that I put together with colleagues. There is an inclusive piano teaching blog that's free of charge on their website. It's pianoinspires.com. And it's not active really anymore, but there are a lot of good information there. There's also an inclusive teaching course, which goes into more detail on everything we've talked about today. And then I hope it's not inappropriate for me to say that my book, Autism and Piano Study, a Basic Teaching Vocabulary, is available online as well.
Definitely not inappropriate and very, very important for folks to be able to know that there are resources out there. You've spent a lot of time doing the research. Of course, your book is probably going to give a lot of information as well. We will definitely have to link to a variety of these resources and make sure that folks have access to it. Well, Scott, thank you so much for coming on. I knew that this would be educative for me because this is something that I probably need to learn more about personally so that I can provide that same opportunity and experience for those that come through our clinics. But I appreciate you giving us your time, your energy, and your knowledge today and sharing that with our families.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I just never thought that one phone call would have sent my life in just such a wonderful direction with
Great call.
wonderful
I need one of
people.
those as well. Thanks, Scott.
Thank you very much, Jeff. Have a great day.
You too. Thank you for listening to Autism Weekly. We hope you tune back in next week to learn more about autism in the real world. Autism Weekly is now found on all the major listening apps, including Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Amazon Music, and more. Subscribe to be notified when we post a new podcast. Autism Weekly is produced by ABS Kids. ABS Kids is proud to provide diagnostic assessments and ABA therapy to children with developmental delays like autism spectrum disorder. You can learn more about ABS Kids and the Autism Weekly podcast by visiting abskids.com. Thanks for tuning in. See you again next week.